All right, we're back for another episode of Modified Rides Podcast. Continue to bring you some cool guests. Today, I have one of the California homies. I have Jason Fonte.
Yes,
So,
sir.
what's going on?
Nothing, man. I'm just sitting here in my office, freezing my ass off.
Is it get cold in California?
Right now, it's not really, but we've been going through some really weird weather lately. But I think it's about 48 or 52 out, low 50.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we're supposed to get rain this week again, so we'll see. But
Which I guess that's good because you're out there close to the heart of all the fire stuff, correct?
yeah, so I live on the west side, which I'm in Culver City proper. I'm right next door to Venice Beach in Santa Monica.
Okay.
So the Palisades are from my house 4 miles maybe. So we're right there, But unfortunately, the out here we're known for our earthquakes, our fires, and our floods and mudslides. So anytime we have a tragic fire, which this absolutely was horrible,
Yeah, for sure.
it dumps rain. So like I think it was last week, PCH got shut down due to mudslides because I guess the soil almost cauterizes itself from the heat and it turns into like a skillet. So the water just hits it and it can't absorb, so it runs off. And anything down below, it's in its way of destruction on top of all the tragedy of the fire as well.
Well, no, you were gathering supplies and stuff. I'd seen you was doing all those posts, trying to gather stuff for people that were affected by it. So that's why I figured you were pretty close to all of it.
We were, it's like our business that my wife and I own is also here in Culver. And from our giant window at the salon, we just watched like the sky get blacker and blacker over the course of 3 days. So we personally knew at least 13 people that lost their homes. Not even really trying hard to think about who is in our database of just clients, especially my wife, And so it was just, it's like, as an example, when 9/11 hit, it's fucking horrible. But I'm all the way here in LA watching it on TV back then, So
Yeah.
while you can understand the gravity of it, I can't understand it like the locals of New York that were there experiencing it firsthand. So for us, this was the first time in my life that I've really watched something like that happen, and I knew people directly that were in the path of the destruction. So it it's like, what do you do? How do you help? I don't know. I've never tried to do anything like that. So the day it kicked off, we sent out a couple posts. We cross-posted them, and then it went viral. And then within 3 days, we filled up my entire salon with donations. Many, many people came through. And literally, man, it got to the point where we were having trouble keeping the business running because there was so much stuff in the salon that we couldn't get to our clients. So, and then I had some great friends from, Paul from up at Slowdown in San Cal, and you had Biggie out in Bakersfield. They saw it. They put a call into their friends, and after we emptied out my salon with like 11 or 12 huge truckloads, they showed up with another like 12 to 20 truckloads with a 20-foot enclosed trailer and a bunch of their friends. And the YMCA here locally was very gracious enough to open up another day for us to drop all that off. So it was just an amazing experience to get so many good people together for such a tragic cause, right? But it was, I feel like we helped somebody somewhere, hopefully.
Well, it's kind of like the way it was here a couple months before y'all got the fires. We got the hurricanes here, or the hurricane come through here, and it's people ask all the time, hey, did you affect them? Like, well, personally, I wasn't, but there's 30 houses in my neighborhood that flooded. You go 10 minutes down the road and the town no longer exists. It's just washed away. So we were dealing with the same kind of tragedy. So I knew firsthand what, I guess, the same aspect you were going through with all the fire stuff. So trying to help out those that you could.
Yeah. And it's at the end of the day, we're like, I'm a family man and a business owner, and my reach is only so far, and and it's like I'm so naive on how it all works that I literally thought that we were just going to get a couple trucks together and then cruise up to the Palisades, and there was going to be like FEMA tents or something that we can, hey, we've got cases and cases of water and bags of clothing. And come to find out, it is not easy to help people. Like, they
Yep.
jump through all sorts of bullshit, jump through this hoop, jump through that hoop. And we're like, man, I'm just trying to give people stuff. You know, a buddy from our club out in Arizona, Ken, he was Amazoning stuff to me like the first day and even the week after, you know. And it's like I'd call a distribution center and say, hey, we have like 200 toothbrush kits, like toothpaste, toothbrush, floss, a face wipe.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want it, but we'll take shoes. Like, well, fuck, man, I don't have shoes. I've got like hygiene kits, brand new. They're, you know, sealed up. And they're like, nah, we're good. Like, I don't know. Again, man, it's frustrating to, I guess, try to figure it out on the fly. But
we ran in that too. I helped some friends drop some stuff off at a local drop point here, and they're like, "Oh, diapers, yeah, we don't need any more of those." And it's like, "Oh, gloves, we don't need no more of those." Like, it's going to be 10 degrees in 2 weeks. Like, I think you need. They're like, "No, we can't take them. See if you can find somewhere else to take them to." And I'm like,
yeah,
so
it's crazy, man. And you know, the other thing that every place that I called, I finally had to get my receptionist, our salon coordinator, to start working it while I was behind the chair. Is they were saying, no, just send us money. I'm like, I'm not sending you money. I don't know what you're going to do with this money. Yep. It's amazing what your guys' CEOs for a nonprofit, how much they make. Like, come on. Like, if I send you 5Gs, how much of that $5,000 is actually going to help and touch the hands of people that actually need it? So, and then they're just like, well, I don't know. You know, that's not what I'm here for. I'm like, fuck you.
So I guess with the rain and stuff y'all have had, you've, the fires are out now.
It seems that way, yeah. There's really nothing going on. You know, and the other thing that sucks about Cali, especially here in SoCal, is that when one fire ignites, man, there's a bunch of yahoos out there just burning, like lighting shit left and right on fire.
I've seen some of that online, people stopping people that they busted doing it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't get it, man. I don't know what makes people like that tick, but you know, if it was up to me, Judge Dredham, you know, just right there on the spot, man. Like, why even put him in the court system? And why are our tax dollars going to make this dude who just tried to start a brush fire in the middle of 100-degree winds? Why does he have rights at that point? In my opinion. But then again, I have a very harsh stance on a lot of things, I'm told. So I digress. But if you know me, you know me.
So let's get into what we came here to talk about. So what got you started into the custom vehicle world? That's always the first question I ask, to see what sparked that fire, no pun intended.
Yeah, I can circle that back to the Apache too. Honestly, as a kid, my favorite thing to do, granted I'm a Gen Xer, I'm 51, I'm old as shit, been around since before the internet.
You're right over a year older than me, so you're fine.
Yeah, but you look 10 years younger than me.
The secret of that is you only do meth every other weekend. You got to space that out.
That's good to know. Keep that in mind. You know, honestly, I loved Hot Wheels. When I was a little kid, I couldn't wait to wake up the next morning and I had one of those cool, if the guys in my age remember, you had that like fold out beige thing that had like 2-story track on it with a gas station. Dude,
I had it.
I used to fill that up. I used to play like city and have racetracks. And I think honestly, you know, it was either that or what do you do as a kid back then? You know, you go play with your friends, or you know, play jacks, or you play fucking checkers. I don't know. That's what we had.
Yep.
So I had hundreds of Hot Wheels, man, and I never lost the drive or the passion for cars, trucks, boats, all that jazz. So as I got older, you know, I had a bunch of cars in high school, I had a Saline as a car, you know, so it's like.
What year?
I had an 89 and a 91.
So square body Fox.
Yeah. So those were my introduction to more horsepower. Now, granted, that was only like 225, 250 horse, which hell, minivans come with 400 now. So it's like, but back in the 80s and early 90s, that was the jam. If you had one of those, you were doing things right, man. You know, until you ran across like one of the the sleeper Grand Nationals, and they just smoked the shit out of you because you were like, it's a grandma car, you know. But
then now the bad part is you drive one of those and you're like, this was fast.
yeah,
If you drive a stock one, you're like, I'm not impressed with this.
I know, but man, that turbo V6 would smoke Corvettes back in the day.
Yeah.
Wild, man. Things are definitely different now, but you know, and just growing up, honestly, man, I just always liked cars and trucks. I especially was always drawn towards Salines and Cobras and just LXs. I used to have an old CHP LX, the little coupe. I think it was cool, man. Just I would do, what was it, 2.5-inch H pipe, get rid of the cats, Flowmaster exhaust, you know, and
you can't do that in California now, can you?
you've never been able to do it. You know? Just don't drive like an asshole around the cops. But you know, and then it just grew from there. Honestly, man, it's my income increased, so did my toys, and then ultimately, I just got the bug back in '99. I grabbed it was a 2000 TRD Tacoma 4x4 extended cab. It was their new platform, the TRD, if I remember correctly. And then I had a buddy that was a general manager at Four Wheel Parts in Van Nuys, and I went down there. I was like, "Hey, man, I want to make this thing cool." Like, but I didn't know what cool meant. Like, I guess all of our definitions of cooler are too different. You know what? It's like, so what does that mean? He tells me, it's like, I don't know. 33s sound really amazing. You know, they came with 31s or 30s or something. I don't know. Looking back on it now, it's pretty funny. But it was very stereotypical for what mini trucks were doing in late 90s, early 2000s. You know, and then from there, it ended up on a custom 13-inch lift, one-off lift on 38s. And the interior was all like embossed flames. And then we did marbleized candy blue flames on the outside, and ton of magazines, ton of awards like SoCal Truck Jamborees and all that stuff that we used to have here in SoCal. Now we don't have shit for the most part. Now all we really have is a couple small city shows and like Quarantine Cruise, that's a monster, man. That thing garnishes more cars than some of our truck jamborees back in the day, and that's free to go to once a month. You know, Canyon Crew, they kill it. And then honestly, man, it just snowballed from there. Like once that ran its course, I just went crazy.
So that Tacoma was your first full out show vehicle?
Yeah, and daily driver. It was stupid. I put only a handful of people know about the boggers, those bi-sply or non-radial tires that would create flat spots when they were cold. They were horrible tires. It was good if I was in Alabama in the mud or something like that, but here in SoCal at the beach, it's so impractical and stupid. But you know,
I guess the Tacoma that big, you're probably getting what, 2-3 miles a gallon out of it because they suck stock.
Oh, totally. Well, we re-geared it, so it definitely, like, I had normal power band and all that stuff. You know, we did it right, modded the motor a little bit. You know, full audio, billet everywhere. Of course, there's billet for the early 2000s. Like what didn't have billet?
Which is all coming back now.
It is, man. It's kind of cool to see that to a degree. You know, it was never solely or fully my jam. I didn't need too much razzle dazzle on the inside of a truck, but whatever. And then, yeah, from there, it just went to a bunch of stuff, man, and 20 years worth of magazines, and, you know, off my right shoulder is my next build, and there's my current build, and, you know, it's been fun. I've been blessed so far.
So what, you said you had all the multiple magazine stuff. What followed magazine wise after the Tacoma? Because from what I understand, you've built quite a few showstoppers.
So I guess after the Tacoma was in like Truckin' Mag, Tailgate Mag, which I wish was still around because that was such a like right on the border of raunchy. I think there were cars and trucks in it, but it was mostly just a bunch of half naked chicks.
You couldn't run that magazine today if you tried to.
I don't know, too many feelings would get hurt.
Yep.
Sad. It's sad the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
But from there, if I remember correctly, I can't see it now, but it's on that in the corner of the wall. It was I got into the Ford F-150 Super Cruise, which were the 4-door F-150s. They were, just two-wheel drive V8. Um, and then I just kind of started sending out marketing decks. Back in the day, I would literally build a marketing deck at Kinko's, and I would mail it to any company that I wanted gear from or tried to work with. And
Oh,
this,
pre-email days.
again, almost pre-computer days. Uh, and it was a process, but I didn't know how else to do it. I couldn't get on Instagram and reach out to companies. I couldn't do any of that. And the only time you would meet any of the folks would be at a car or truck show, or if you went in house to their location. Otherwise, you don't know
Yep.
them. And that's literally how I got into some of the mags too. Is I would mail these decks out of what my trucks have done, where I'm going with it, what sponsors are on board, who I'm looking to obtain or align myself with. And then slowly but surely, that one of my Super Cruise was I think it was a Beltec or DJM drop, static drop. Rozzy, that's a name from way back. I was running 23s on a static drop truck with a body kit, and everyone thought it was airbag back in the day. But I was still so new in that scene in the lowered side. I was a couple years behind because I'd always had lifted stuff. Was that airbags were a thing. I didn't know anything about them, so I never even looked at that. But next thing you know, it's getting shot for tech articles left and right, and then it was in a bunch of mags for that. And then
Now, what was when you first started doing like the proposal decks like that? What year was that?
2000,
Early 2000s.
2000 on the nose, because I bought the Toyota in '99,
Okay.
and then I went to. If you know me, I'm a huge law enforcement advocate, military advocate, fire department advocate. So I had a lot of my friends that were cops, that are cops to this day. So the first show I ever went to was an LAPD charity fundraiser car show, and I brought my Tacoma on 33s with I think it was a Trailmaster 6-inch lift, and that was it. It wasn't even on real welds. It was on like fake. I think it was on ProComp weld replicas or something like that. And I got third place. I only got third place because there were only 3 trucks in the category. So a fucking win's a win, right? That's the way I looked at it. It's stupid, but whatever. It's simple things, right? But then I just kind of got the bug, and I really started to see what like some really truly beautiful trucks and cars looked like, because I had never really been exposed to that. I was more interested in just hot rodding around town. And I spent a good portion of my late teens and early 20s in Santa Barbara, so there really wasn't much of a car culture up there unless you were like 70 and you were driving some old E-Type Jaguar. And that's really where it kind of started. And then from there, I found out that I didn't have to run a lift block in the rear when I was going with such a big lift. Oh, there's a company called Deaver down in, I think it was San Diego. So I saw them at Off-Road Expo, I believe. I mean, this is a long time ago, so I'm having to draw back here. And I met the daughter to the company, and I walked her over to my truck, and I introduced myself, and I said, look, I'm new to this. This is what I want to do with this truck. And she's like, when you figure out what you need, here's my number, call me, and we'll build you a perfect leaf pack for your rear end so you don't have to run a block. I was like, wow, she was my first true 100% sponsored company.
And a lot of people don't understand that having to do those mail-in, proposals back in the day were a lot more work than just typing out an email and sending off a rendering. Like we had to hustle back then to get what we got.
Oh yeah. I mean, but I think that's also what, in my, very biased opinion, makes us compared to what's out there now. Now anybody who buys a fucking Dodge thinks they should get body kits and wheels, and like, oh, I got a Dodge with a 22% interest rate. And, my parents co-signed for me, so sponsor me. Like, It's like a dick, dude. Like, you're nobody.
And
We,
they, well, what shows you go to? Oh, I go to the Cruise Inn.
yeah, it's like, what have you done to earn this? Who are you? And that's really, I think, a very, and it's not this entire generation, right? There's definitely exceptions that are out there hustling like nobody's business. And, I applaud those folks. But at the end of the day, like you said, man, that's how we did it because that's all we could do. I wasn't piped in. I didn't have friends in the scene, and I was learning it as I went. Whether it'd be the hard way or the easy way, I'm not sure, but I believe that that's what um, gave me my drive to want to continue to do better, build after build after build.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was really just trying to align myself with the proper brands because even to this day, brands reach out almost on a weekly basis to me. Hey, we'd love to run something on your vehicle, and I look at it while I'm flattered that they searched me out. I don't necessarily want that product on my, like, I feel like I'm doing a better service than you guys would be doing for me. It's got to be a two-way alignment, in my opinion.
For sure.
But honestly, man, and that's really where I kind of kicked it into overdrive was at Toyota. And then the magazines, never really thinking about being in a magazine. And all of a sudden I'm in 3 or 4 of them with one truck. I was like, holy hell, this is cool, man. Like, where can I take that? What's next? And then literally from there, it just kept going and going.
Well, it's the same way like when I started back in, 97 trying to line up parts. Like I got a set of wheels from Lexani before Lexani was what they became. I think that was before the ball player and the wrapper stuff. And I was like, holy crap, y'all sent me a set of Chrome 17s. I'm like, wow, I felt like, big time.
Right.
Now it's like, oh, you got 17s. You're like, oh, that's your golf cart. What are we doing here?
Yeah, right. No,
but the amount of printing stuff out and then mailing it out, and trying to get it the right alignment because there wasn't that kind of like Photoshop or like Microsoft Word like there is now where you can plug and play and drop all these templates and stuff. And then it's like you make all these copies and you realize there's 3 words misspelled. And you're like, oh crap, now I got to go back and redo all this. And
I remember
don't look like a fool to these companies.
And then, you remember it's like, do I want to have that clear Lexan sheet on the very top to make it look that more professional of my binding? Or do I want to save the 4 cents on these 10 packets? I remember all that. That's a good memory.
Or you didn't just staple the corner and throw it in an envelope?
Oh no, dude. I had Kinko's do one of those bindings around the edge.
Yep.
And because again, I was in my early 20s. I didn't know shit. I mean, I still don't know shit. I'm in my early 50s. But it just seemed it was more professional. And honestly, I would say it was probably an 80 to 90% success rate for everything I sent out. But I also wasn't reaching for the stars.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I sent a thing to Rockford Fosgate, back in the day, and they sent me 2 subs. That was it, 2 subs. I'm like, all right, this is great, man. Thank you. Well, shit, that's not a whole stereo system. What do I do with the other stuff now? And I was like, oh man, fuck, they're smarter than me because now I have to buy Fosgate matching brand in order to say Fosgate sponsored me. And I was like, oh, these fuckers just got me. It cost them nothing. 2 8-inch subs back in the day. And now I got to go spend like $1,000 or whatever it was to finish it off. But, it's cool, man. I think the most impressive thing of it all was honestly just the friendships I've made. It's some of my best friends are in the scene and they've really help elevate me through my design process as well as my brand alignment and things like that. And I'm more grateful for that than any of the toys, man. Money you can always go buy stuff, but my buddies, if it wasn't for this industry, I wouldn't have met those guys. So for that one aspect, I'm immensely grateful. And for opportunities like working with you with this, man, and it's like, you've been in the scene shooting for so many years. We've never crossed paths really because I'm in Cali and you're not.
Yeah.
So it would be hard pressed unless you were at a show and you were looking for a specific vehicle to shoot that maybe you see one of mine. So again, this is an opportunity from this scene that is super cool. It's a good time, man.
So I know you're in Relax. So when did you get into Relax? Because you talk about the community and the friends and stuff. So that's kind of, I guess, tied into the some of the Relax stuff, I'm sure.
So funny story, a good buddy of mine, Jeff Sherrill, I used to cut his hair when he was going to college in Santa Barbara and in the barber shop that I owned. So we were in our late teens when I met Jeff. So that's 30 plus years ago. Um, and then honestly, I was never around enough guys in the car scene that were in a club. I knew people in this club, I knew people in that club, but I've been self-employed my whole career, and my schedule is always kind of business and family first, not necessarily in that order. So I could never commit myself to being in a club because I always thought that you had to do this, you had to do that, you had to pay fees, you got to do all this.
Meetings and
Yeah, it's like, who has time, dude? I'm more interested in trying to make $500,000 this year, and you guys want to fucking argue about the patch on your jacket, which angle it's supposed to be at. Like, that's cool. Everyone's got their own thing, but at the same time, that's not me. So, fast forward to about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years ago, another good buddy of mine in Relaxed, Andy, who's now up in Vegas.
Cook.
No, Mooring. But I
Okay.
know Andy Cook. He's the one that does all my logos for me for all my trucks. um, he was like, "Dude, you're with us all the time. You should just petition and relax." I was like, "I don't know what that means. I don't have time for all this shit." He's like, "But the time that you're doing, that's all the time there is. There's no commitments, no nothing." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Oh, I always had this misconception based on what I had heard from other people and their clubs and stuff, and so yeah, I just petitioned, and I think I've been in. It's funny, Trevino and I were just talking about this at the Grand National Roaster Show. I think it's been like maybe 3 or 4 years, something like that, since I was logoed in. But it's awesome, man. I get to meet a bunch of dudes from the same club, uh, from all over the country, and again, I think it builds our brand. I would say almost in every magazine we have one of our relaxed trucks. There's a lot of top designers out there, not just us, but like Negative Camber, and Novogratz. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's got trucks in the mags, and not everybody cares about being in mags too. So it's
I don't think that aspect is as big as it was back in the late '90s, early 2000s. Because back then, that was the only way, like, I could see your stuff or you could see mine, is because it was in a magazine and it was sold everywhere.
true.
Now the internet has rocked that whole world.
The internet is unfortunately destroyed so many different levels of actual print, which I love. A tactile experience. I
Yep,
still have magazines. I still get magazines.
I do
Um,
too.
you know, I'm not a digital person. I'm tethered to digital because of now. It's just the only way to really be out there and staying relevant, I guess, to certain things, or being able to see what the trend is happening versus I got to wait 6 months, or I got to go to Battle in Bama to see what the East Coast is doing, and or I got to go to LST or these big shows. Whereas now, like you said, you can just get on your phone and what's hot, what's not, like who's
Yeah.
doing this. Uh, so I guess it's a double edged sword with the internet, man. It's a blessing, and it's also kind of like, oh man, I miss the magazines were cool. I still think they're cool as shit, man. Like, I don't build trucks for awards. If I get them, cool. Uh, my goal is always build something that hasn't been overly saturated, or design it, since I can't build to save my life, um, and try to stay a little bit ahead of the curve. Now, if I'm doing that, I don't know. I think I do an okay job, but I don't really give a shit. I just want to have fun and have cocktails at the shows and hang out with my buddies and meet new friends. Or, it's like you'd be surprised how many cars I know at a show, but I got no idea who actually owns the car. So when I meet them,
Yep.
like, oh fuck, dude! Like, I
Well,
love your truck. I've downloaded your photo on like some of my wallpapers from my computer. So it's always, I think it's dope to meet those guys or those gals that are in the scene, but you don't know, but you know what they drive. I mean,
But then when you see that person away from the vehicle, be like, "Oh yeah, you got that blue so and so with the
yeah, what's your
like." I
name?
can't remember your name, but
Yeah, it's it's funny how we were talking about it earlier. It's most people think my name is Rocco because my Instagram is Rocco's dad.
yeah,
Rocco is in fact my son. I'm Jason. But to this day, no matter every show I go to, there's someone's like, "Oh, you're Rocco. You're Rocco's dad." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up, man? Good to meet you." It's funny, man. Again, I think we're living in a wild time, right? It's the internet is like we have computers on our phones. Like, who would have thought you could walk around the computer?
you're 3,000 miles from me, and we're sitting here having a
It's wild.
visual conversation. So some
Yeah,
Jetson shit here.
yeah, man. But
So
it's cool.
so go back through some of your other vehicles because you said you had several that were in magazines. You stopped at the Ford.
So yeah, my Super Crew was in a couple tech articles. I had sold it just before we were getting ready to shoot it for a feature. I don't think it would have been a cover, but it was definitely getting shot. Thor tailgate. But then money talked, and I was like, cool, I don't need it that bad. From there, I want to say I jumped up into 2004, 2005 Chevy 2500 HD diesel 4x4 crew cab. And then from there, the big lift and the safer lift back in the day was CST, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then you had some other brands out there, but it didn't seem like a lot of R&D went into their design, and like suspensions were collapsing. The welds were just snapping. So I stayed away from that, and I did their big 9 to 11 inch lift. And then I added the cogs, which gave me, I think, another couple inches of lift, and I ran 37s. And at the time, I had a really unique relationship with KMC Wheels, Chris Anderson. And they sponsored me a new wheel that was coming out. It was called their Rockstar.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. Those are dope. I saw them on a buddy's truck, but I never knew what they were. And this is back when I had a big 30-foot race boat and I would go to Havasu with. And he's like, cool. Like, what size do you want to do? I said, all right, well, what's the biggest size you have? And he's like, well, for a 4x4, I would recommend like an 18, maybe a 20. I was like, all right, well, what's the biggest size you have? He's like, well, we have a 24 by 10 or 24 by 12. I don't really remember how wide it was back then. I was like, cool, I'll do that. He's like, for a 4x4? Why? I'm like, why not? And I said, I want them in matte black because I see that you have the matte black ones. He's like, yeah, but not many people, that's not a good seller right now. Everyone wants chrome. Like, I'll do black. So, that was 2000.
What were they making that size wheel for if it wasn't a 4-wheel drive?
Like, I don't know. According to them, that's what they were telling me. Maybe lowered stuff. I have no idea. So literally, I was like, cool, I'll do that. And I put it on a set of I think it was like Toyo 37-inch like MTs. And then we shot it for Truck and Mag along with my boat. And it was in 8 lug. And I was in another mag.
Who shot that?
I'd have to move the truck to look at the plaques. I don't remember. This is a long time ago. I can't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago. You want me to go back 12, 13 years? Shit. And then that became their poster child for the Rockstar wheel. And anytime you would look in their catalogs, it was my big diesel that was rocking the matte black ones. And then also around that time too, I was fortunate enough to meet Brian from SoCal Customs, which was an online publication.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up until, I don't know, a handful of years ago, he shot all of my trucks. Were for his website, I thought were pretty cool too. And that's really where you saw the internet kind of starting to jump up, and it was more and more and more.
I hadn't heard much from Brian in a while since he moved.
Frost, I think his last name is Frost.
You see him pop up every now and then doing the family thing, but I think he's give up on the photography stuff.
I don't know, man. It's like you said, I used to see him everywhere and then just kind of gone, But then also I had shifted out of big trucks and I got into slammed SUVs and all blacked out SUVs on, keeping my alignment with KMC. I was rocking their monsters on a 26-inch wheel, and then the slides on one of my Tahoes that, I was fortunate enough to have Aaron Aha build me a static drop, and we were literally tucking the tire on 26s, static dropped. And that's where the Project Blacked Out plate came from. It was back when California stopped making those plates many, many, many years ago, like in the 70s, and then they went to the blue plates and the white plates in LA or in California. Then they had a program years ago called the Legacy Plate Series, which is the black and yellows.
Yeah.
So I remember I had ordered that for my Tahoe because it was all blacked out, and then to this day, man, the highest offer right now I think is $1,800 for my plates,
just for the tags,
just for the plates. It just is blacked out because you'd be surprised how many cars are blacked out here, and they see the plates and they're like, "How much?" I'm like, I don't know. Man.
Can you buy a tag from someone in California and re-register it on a vehicle?
Yeah, it's just all I have to do is sign a release. Sorry, I keep
here in North Carolina, you can't.
My wife and son are out shopping right now, so it's Amex.
Yeah, I'm here in North Carolina. Like you have to supposed to turn the plates in. Mine for some reason get lost when I go to turn them in, and I don't know where they're at. So might be in the garage on the wall.
Someone stole them. So what happens here is you actually have to pay. California, I'm born and raised here in LA, man, and as much as I love saying that, I also hate saying that because I got to pay $50 a year just for my plates, just for personalized license plates. They tax the shit out of you here, without even getting into all the politics of life and administrations and this and that. Like Cali sucks on taxes, bro. So I get to retain my plates when I sell my vehicles if I choose to, or I can let them go with the new owner, but then I charge them separately for the plates, and then I have to do another set of paperwork to release the plates to them to reassign.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so
yeah, and here the only way you can do it is if you're trading in a vehicle for a new vehicle, they can transfer your plates, but I can't transfer my plate to you.
That's a trip.
They just do a new one.
Yeah. No, so, I've got plates all over my garage from various vehicles, and I was just like, I don't know what to do with it, so I'll keep it. Never know if I need it again. But
so after the SUVs and stuff you had, where did your vehicle collection there go to?
Then I got into Cadillacs, man. So like right after I got rid of my Toyota and my big Chevy, I never took the Chevy to a show. It was just always to the river or magazine shoots, and I got into Cadillacs. So I had lost many years of going to the shows and the truck jamborees and all that kind of stuff. So any of the connections that I had made back then, they weren't super solid. I just kind of like phased away, out of sight, out of mind type of thing. And then I got into like Slam Cadillacs, and then I reached out to Aaron again, and he built me. Everyone thought I was crazy for getting a 4-door Cadillac, but it was a 1962 Sedan DeVille 4-window Cadillac, and he slammed it, laid frame. It was tits, man. Super cool. Shot that for, Brian's site, and then I think maybe one magazine got a hold of it. But the problem I was running into with Cadillacs is nobody really gave a shit, which was fine because I wasn't doing it for other people to care.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like I got into that vibe where it was like, I want Cadillacs for now. And then I met some really good dudes in the Cadillac Kings, Carlos and Gabe, who are the president and vice president of the 818 chapter here.
I never understood why there was not a magazine back in the magazine day of just the Cadillacs, Lincolns, the big body stuff, because it was popular and people were modding the crap out of them, but there was really no home for them.
It's funny, man. I was just thinking about that, and I got into a talk with somebody at Grand Nationals about Cadillacs because he's like, "Oh my God, you're the CEO sled guy." That was my plate for my Cadillac, and then subsequently it's been on all my stuff. But I think what happened is when Cadillac or Lincoln owners would go to, let's say, a traditional hot rod show or a classic car show, there were never categories for those vehicles. It was always Chevy, GM, Camaro, Mustang,
Yeah.
and it never really was a big enough topic to have its own category. So even when I had my 59 full custom Coupe de Ville, I'd always get lumped into Impala categories, um, or stuff where the Impala was the prevalent vehicle at that show. And there would be one Cadillac. Typically, it'd always be me. And, you got some of these guys that have these 59 and 60 convertible Impalas that are worth $250,000. That even though my Cadillac, I always thought was the pinnacle, the 59 of Cadillacs, and it was fucking tits, was how does that compete to this bright, flashy convertible Impala? It doesn't. It's two different worlds, right? Apples and oranges. While they're both unique and beautiful, everyone would always go that route, and I get it. So it became one of those things where I just stopped going to shows with my Cadillacs because there was no point. It's like, unless I was going with a buddy and we were just going to go have cocktails after or something like that, or like local cars and coffees or local tiny city shows or something like that. But even then, man, I think I had my 59 for 4 years. It was in 3 different magazines. I had brought it to at least 5 or 6 shows, and I finally got I got an award. I got one award at all these shows I ever did with that Cadillac, and it was because there was nothing else in that category, and I was sort of in that category, so they just gave it to me. But again, a win's a win. But it was very frustrating because I'd come home and my wife was like, "So, did you win an award?" I'm like, "Fuck no, no." She's like, "What's the point then?" I'm like, "Well, the point is you can get in this 43,000 original mile 59 Cadillac Coupe de Ville full custom. No matter where you take it, it will garnish more attention than your 6-figure Lambos."
Yep.
And to me, that was always just like the ultimate kind of like fuck you to those guys. I'm not saying fuck you to anybody who's got a Lambo. I'm just saying anybody for the most part can go out and buy a Lambo right now. You can go buy one in cash right now. But I'll see 3 more today on the west side here of LA. You don't see a 59 Coupe de Ville skating around town 1 inch off the pavement. So I always took a little bit of like when you'd go to like a Cars and Coffee and none of the exotics were getting attention, but all the classics were, not just me, but other classics were just, everyone wanted to be about that, unless you were like deep into Hollywood and everyone's like, "Oh, check out my Mercedes AMG, bro," and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with those either, but it's not my vibe. I like old things that tend to break down a lot.
I don't like the breaking down aspect, but
No. Wait, hold on one second. I got to get another cocktail. I need another water. So yeah, I spent a hot 5 or 6 years with Cadillacs, maybe 7 years. I had that 62 sedan DeVille that was super cool. And then from there, I got a 62 coupe, or a 62 series 62 in white. And then, I did a couple like cleanups on it. Then a buddy from Vegas bought it, Jeremy. He still has it to this day. And he's taken it to such another level. I'm always pumped when I see him put it out there, and that him and his family are still mobbing it around in Vegas. It's super cool to see, because the other thing I always try to do the right thing. I don't take shortcuts. I don't skimp on spending the money. I want it safe so that I can take my wife and our son, even in Mr. Simpson here, which is, 550, 600 horsepower almost. I can take him out and it's still safe. So it's cool to see that the guys that I have build these cars for me, and then the people that take them are still loving them to this day, and they're still driving around, and they're not, to me that's a pretty cool aspect of it.
That's one of the things I try to tell a lot of these newcomers to all this. They're like, "Oh, I found this part on Amazon or whatever, and this and that." I'm like, "No, like save up, spend the right money, do it one time, spend once, cry once."
Exactly.
Then you don't have to worry about it. Then, because if not, then you're out breaking down, you're out having issues, and this don't work with that part. And it's like, I'd rather do it right the first time and take longer to do it than I would,
you're 100% wrong. But see, that's another problem with this generation, that everyone wants instant satisfaction. or, you know, I'm entitled to do whatever I want. Maybe it's against everybody's advice, but, you know, I know better than everybody, you know. And then, like you said, you got some shit off of Amazon, and next thing you know, it doesn't fit. And now, you know, now your car doesn't work right. It's like, nobody wants to do things the right way. And sometimes doing it the right way takes longer, but there's a reason why it takes long, because you're doing it right. You're not just throwing duct tape on it, hoping it gets you to the next car show or something, you know?
Well, it's like the Blazer I'm doing this year. It's the first time I've ever done a old vehicle for one, and for two, it's the first time I've ever done a frame off. Everything else I've done has been brand new vehicles that we've just modified, freshened them up, you know, made them my own.
Yeah.
But I've never blown something apart. And there's little stuff you're like, okay, now I need new wiper arms. Okay, well, now I need new wiper blades. Well, now I need a wiring harness that I didn't need on the last build. And it's like, I've got a spreadsheet of all these parts, and I'm just like, I couldn't imagine cutting corners at this point.
No. And I think there's only a handful of guys in the scene that have that approach, you know, and you could tell because their truck is at every show and they drive it there. They're not trailering them. There's nothing wrong with trailing. God knows I've been called trailer queen many times, but it's because I'm fucking lazy. It's not because I can't drive them. It's just because I would rather have the modern conveniences of a seat warmer or a seat air conditioner, cruise control. I like that type of stuff. You know, what do I need to drive all the way out to Arizona, you know, in a full custom build where all it takes is one blowout and I'm not getting there any further. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To this day, I took Mr. Simpson. We drove that when Per Diem and Creepworks built it for me in 3 months. You know, they blew it apart, built everything brand new, and fuck, man, that was done in July, and I've already got 4,000 miles on it. You know, so tried and true. Like, you just build them to drive them. Which, to your point, though, even new cars break down. Right?
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's always a crapshoot. You just hope it's not going to wind up on your plate. But sometimes it does.
So was it after the Cadillacs that you got back into the truck world?
Yeah, like in between there and you know, my SUVs. That's really is. So when California got hit pretty hard with COVID, all that bullshit, we got locked down nicely.
Oh yeah, we saw it on the news all the time.
Yeah, we're LA even more specifically. Orange County was laughing at us, and you know, God bless them. But just as the COVID, not restrictions were going into effect, I had gone. I still have my Coupe de Ville. We just shot it for a magazine, and I went out to. I forget what I was doing out in the valley, but I was meeting a buddy at his shop to get something. And I had just loosely told him, I said, hey, man, I want to get back into trucks, you know? And he's like, I should say, I want to get back into like a C10. Those seem to be coming. I see a lot more guys wanting to start to build these, and it looks like there's a lot more parts prevalent. So this would have been back, 2000, what are we, 25? So COVID was what, 2020. So this would have been just, yeah, right about the beginning when things started like getting shitty. And I was telling him about what I'd like to do. And I said, I'd like to do a Chevy. I'm not a big fan of the Fords when they're on the ground. Only a couple of them have really ever caught my eye, but I really liked the Chevy body style. I think it had good symmetrics, or symmetry, I should say. And he's like, well, I have a truck here that I got off of Craigslist a couple months ago. And I've done nothing with it, and I'm not going to build it. I don't even think I can build it. So I was like, all right, let me take a look. And he pulls back this tarp, and what was underneath it was the makings of a 59 Chevy Apache, but it was completely burnt. And I was like, what a pile of shit. No wonder why. Why did you even buy it? It looked like a paperweight. He's like, well, I bought it from the owner up in NorCal. And the history of this truck is really priceless, but you have to build it to make it worth anything. So he starts to go into this, story about how Do you remember back in 2018 when NorCal caught on fire and there was like the Paradise Fire? And I was like, yeah, loosely. It was like about a year and a half prior. And I said, yeah, what about it? He's like, well, this is the Paradise Fire truck. I was like, huh, okay. So is there a motor in it? He's like, technically, yeah. But now, mind you, it was literally just a corpse. Like, you would never think to even build this truck.
And you could probably smell that day right now.
Yeah, it was wild, man. I don't know what I was thinking to even say, like, cool, I'll buy it. Like, how much you want for it? He's like, well, I already got a couple parts for it. And what he meant by a couple parts is, oh, I have a new chrome grill for it, and oh, I did a rendering for it. But he's like, I don't have the time nor the inclination to try to build this because I don't think it's going to work. So I was like, okay, cool.
Is he trying to take it back down and like paint it and make it a full vehicle again?
That's what he was going to try to do. And I'm no metal person at all. Like, there's no way you can fucking make this metal right to paint it. You'll never do it. It'll never work. So, but I also didn't want to tell him too much because now at this point I was hooked. I want the truck. I was just being a big enough naysayer to like just further cement the doubt in his head. Because if all of a sudden I'm amped on it, he knows what I'm going to do. So he'd probably not let me have it.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I get the truck for like, I think it was like $1,500 and the couple parts that came with it. And then fast forward a couple weeks, I start working on the design based off of the photo I took of it because the truck still isn't at my house. It's still out in the valley. And then we get the hey, you're going into lockdown. Like, well, what the fuck does that mean? What is lockdown? What does shelter in place mean? So another week goes by, and my wife and some of our friends and I are sitting out on our lawn eating tacos, just chilling out, looking at the rest of the quiet neighborhood, going like, "The fuck happened?" And then here comes a flatbed with this pile of shit Apache on it. It looks like Mater from Cars. If anybody has kids, they all know who Mater is. Mater is a better version of what I got delivered. And my kid goes, "Oh, look, it's Mater." And then my wife, we were all having cocktails, and she's like, "Look at that pile of shit." I'm like, "Well, that pile of shit's the next build." She's like, "Yeah, right." So I'm like, "No, I got to go let him in, right into our private alley." So sure as shit, it comes in here, gets dropped off. She walks back, and she's like, "What the fuck did you do?" I'm like, "Look, it was cheap. If it doesn't work, I'll have parts, and I can put that on something else." And that's really where I put pen to paper and took some time to figure out, fuck, what did I do? It needed everything, every nut, bolt, wire, everything's gone, everything's rusted. Sum up the whole story, figured out what we wanted to do, how I wanted it built, and then Devious Customs put that plan into motion. And he even guided some of my what I thought were good decisions into better decisions. And I'm forever grateful for Jeff for doing that and his team that built, the ultimate Apache. Like, to this day, there's nobody that can say they have a patina that matched that truck. You can't. Yeah. You got to burn the fucker down.
There might be some after the Palisades now, but
dude, well, sadly, it's. I get messages. Even last night, Jeff sent me you want to do version 2, and it's a 58 Apache. I was like, fuck, no, I've already done that, man. Like, that was a long year for that build. Jeff, they built that for about a year, and then we debuted it in 21 at SEMA inside the South Hall for I forget what company it was, but Jeff kind of opened that up for me. And that was the first time I had ever actually had a vehicle inside of SEMA. It was super cool. Had a good time. Met some good people.
Now, you had a full chassis underneath that, right?
On that one, we had a roaster shop, slam.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Anytime I run into those guys, it's a fucking party, man. Phil and Irving and those guys are good guys, man. I have nothing but respect and good times to say about those guys. In fact, even at Grand Nationals, like me and the roaster shop guys were just getting trashed inside the hotel bar. It's a good time. And I don't even have anything on an RS chassis right now. But it's just, it kind of falls back to the uniqueness of what we do. and the people that we get to associate with, or we choose to associate with, that I think just make us better people in general, right? Like if you're around a bunch of good dudes, it's going to elevate you, I think, both spiritually and mentally, that you want to be even more successful. Like I've never been a
Yep.
big believer in hanging around with a bunch of guys that are always complaining about, well, why me? Why did this? Why that? Like, no, it's like all my buddies are independently wealthy, or they're CEOs, or they're just out there hustling, man. They're not, they don't have their hand out. You know, they're trying to earn everything that they're able to get. And all it does is want to make me do better and better for my family, for my business, for my next build, you know, and then also network and market that much harder for all the people that help me. I in turn want to help them with more customers, because
Yep.
really that's the circle of this whole business, right? It's, you can't just take. You have to, like, I feel like I give back. I try to give back more than I get. Not because I want a pat on the back or anything, but just because I think it's the right thing to do. I don't know.
So
So
I believe the same thing. I have a lot of people's like, oh, I've said this before, like, oh, your social media stuff looks like a commercial. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm working with these companies that I'm working with year after year. That's why I've got a truck outside with a prototype suspension on it. It's why I got other prototype stuff coming for the Blazer, because these companies see what you do, and then they're like, okay, if this is what you're going to do with this project, we won't involved with this one because we know the direction you're going to go with it.
exactly.
It's
And,
not just thanks for the part, see you bye. Who are you? Like,
and I think that was the downfall in the early to mid 2000s, even into the late 2000s, that for the people that had grinded it out, earned those sponsorships, were then possibly being met with the following year or a year later, like, oh, things are a lot different now. It's because of all
mhm.
those yahoos that fucked it all up.
Yep.
They talked a somewhat good game, and the poor marketing people or the salespeople bought into it. And they're like, hey, man, we gave out 10 sets of wheels. We didn't get one lick of any sort of publication or shout out or nothing. So now we're not doing shit. You know, and that's really the difference between the guys that have the proven track records or the guys that take advantage, you know, and those are the ones that I think Judge Dredd should pay them all a visit.
I think one of the coolest things that's happened with the build I'm doing now is I had two of the companies I've never worked with before, never spoke to anybody at the companies. It's never been in my wheelhouse of anything. And two companies were both like, I love your photography. I've followed you for years. We'd love to help with this. And I'm like, okay, I've never worked with you, but you knew who I was. I'm like, okay, I've done something right when you have companies that I want to work with that already knew who I was.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I mean,
So that,
and that's a testament to your hard work over year after year. You know, you're not taking shortcuts. You're not looking for that handout. You got your nose down and you're grinding. And if, you know, you're fortunate enough to have someone in a notable place see that and help elevate you or your next build, then, I mean, at the end of the day, that's such a good feeling that it's like, look, I'm not asking for handouts, but I'm trying to do the best I can do. And that means something to somebody. So that's cool.
and then when they're like, hey, can you get us photos of our parts? Absolutely. That's the one thing I know I can provide.
No, that's
So there's a
awesome.
lot of my photos that are floating around on ads and websites and stuff because, they provide it. So I just send them whatever they need. Here's your folder of high res photos and have fun with them.
Yeah, that's super cool. See, I don't even own a camera. I got this stupid iPhone. And even then, I can't take a good enough picture. It all looks like shit. Like,
You'd
what
be
am I?
surprised what you can do with an iPhone.
Maybe you, but not me. Like, it's funny, man, because like my buddies will hit me up like, hey, man, you haven't done your typical social media diarrhea on your Instagram. Like, what are you doing? Are you in town? I'm like, oh no, I've just been busy with work or something. He's like, oh, okay. Because they know it's like I just post the dumbest shit. And it's always my shit, and then I try to post other people's stuff, and and I'm trying to make it balanced. And at the end of the day, it's just like I'm sitting on a toilet. I'll send out 8 fucking memes. Like, this is my free time, But it's crazy, man. I love it all,
The bad part is the one person that don't like my photos is my daughter. Oh, you didn't do this angle right, or the lighting wasn't right. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing 3,700 photos for one outfit. Like, you're going to take one is all you're getting.
That's awesome, man. Kids are
But
crazy.
she's 24, so she's that whole, I've got to have the
He's in a couple.
selfie all the time.
No, man. Like we have our son Rocco, he'll be 14 next month, and we were sitting at ramen the other night. He, my wife, and myself, and I found out he has the Snapchat. I don't have it. I don't even know what it is. I've heard of it, but so I'm asking him questions about it, and he's looking at me, and my wife's looking at me like, dude, what fucking year are you in? And I'm like, well, here, can I be in a group chat? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, I think I'm kind of cool. And he just laughs, and my wife's like, you're not cool. I'm like, God, like, what do I got?
Thanks, dear.
What do I got to do to get one? Like, good job, Dad. These fucking kids, man, they're crazy. Like they're out shopping right now. They got President's Day off, so they're at the mall. But
oh, it's the day of holiday.
Yeah, this Monday and next Monday, another President's Day.
Gotcha.
But
so thinking of pictures, though, I guess let's get into the pictures of the Apache, which are probably some of the most badass photos that I've seen as a photographer.
Have you? So I guess the connection that sparked you and I being on this together right now was Johnny O.
Yeah.
So Brian from Grindr shot the Apache for Plastic Truck Performance out in Asia years and years and years ago. It was a beautiful photo shoot right at sunset. Fucking amazing. And
Brian's awesome.
I personally thought it should have been on the cover because it was the provenance of this truck, the level build of this truck, and then also the photos were like something out of a movie shoot. It was wild. And then Johnny wanted to shoot it a couple years later. I was like, okay. He's like, but I got to figure it out because I want to set a fire. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I was like, wait a minute, you want to set a fire? What the fuck, dude? He's like, yeah, the fire truck with a live fire. We're gonna shoot it.
I mean, he could have easily photoshopped that in 5 minutes.
I couldn't, but
he could.
You could, yeah.
But that's not who Johnny O is.
Oh, dude. And he shot the Cadillac before in the studio. So, like, I know this dude is hyper, like, focused on what he wants, his vision. So I was like, all right, you let me know when you want me to bring the truck, and you figure it out. And, like, I'm down. I'll just sit there and have cocktails all day. So this motherfucker really set fire. So the cover of Street Trucks, that is not CGI'd. That is literally a fucking fire that you could feel 50 feet away on the other side of his studio. And how he achieved that shot was wild, man.
When I had him on the podcast, he's talking about like after every shot, he had to like open the door and like let it air out. And
yeah, it was crazy, dude. The way how he even came up with it was fascinating. And then he's like, no, I don't like the burn rate of this belt. We got to go do some shopping right now. So we went and got in his truck and we went to like all the arts and crafts stores, and like he burned like 5 or 6 different types of materials. Like, all right, this is the one. Cool. And I was like, cool. It looks the same to me, but what the fuck do I know? I'm sitting on the couch drinking. So, and it's weird, right? I am not at all a photographer at all. I suck. So to see what you guys can actually do with a lens is so impressive, because you could even make me look cute in the right light. So, but I had no vision of what he was doing. I've never seen a long exposure shot take place. I didn't know what the fuck that was. I'm like, bro, you're going to be in the shot. How is this working? He's like, trust me, I won't be in the shot. But like, I didn't know, right? Now I know. But he would literally just walk with this giant pole and this fucking tower of fire behind it. And that's what created that insane shoot. And then we had to go. Then he had to interview me because I guess Street Trucks wanted a whole like backstory about what this truck really is and why is it so unique. So when I saw those photos, man, I was blown away. Like I couldn't even fathom that that's what he was doing with it. Because then, typical Johnny, he won't tell you shit. No photographer will tell you anything that they're shooting. I'm just trust me, it'll work. Like, all right, then you got to wait like 6 months to a year. And then honestly, by the time that one dropped, I had already forgotten that he had shot it because it'd been probably like a year prior.
Well, I know when I took over Street Trucks, he shot it, I'm guessing the end of 22, maybe. Because if you had it at SEMA 21, because I took over Street Trucks in 23. and I knew it was on file for him because I was back and forth with him.
I can't get to the plaque to see when it was shot, but yeah, it was.
Well, I know it ran in the November issue because it was the one that was given out at SEMA in
Dude,
23. Yeah, 23.
I begged street trucks, dude, bring my truck in. Have the truck that's on the cover. And he's like, man, we have no room for it. We already got a truck. I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, put it in there, man. Like, I think that's just so much more of an impactful brand piece for marketing. But, you know. Like,
I agree. I would have loved to have had that when the this is the issue we're giving out. Here's the truck on the cover. Like,
so it was amazing, man. Again, super grateful. I never would have thought when I was building my Toyota in 1999 that it would ever lead to anything like this. And or all the cool people that I got to work with or the brands that I've been aligned with, man. And it's just awesome, man. Like I don't go to the shows. For those that truly know me, no, I never leave the VIP or the vendor booths that I'm in. I'm always partying there because that seems to be where all a certain like group of guys, we all just kind of collectively come together and just party and have a good time and catch up because I haven't seen those guys in this last year since this last show. And I think that's the coolest part of all of this. I mean, Square Body is a Square Body and Apache is an Apache. You can only do so many things that are unique to them, right? And I'm under no pretense that like, oh, every one of my trucks is a one-off build. Like technically every truck that is built is a one-off build because you built your spec. Now the Apache, there's I can make an argument for that. There's no one that's ever going to top that one. Now, can somebody sink $100,000 into a paint job and make it a lot prettier? Yeah, but this wasn't a pretty truck. This was like a down in the dirt, crazy horsepower, crazy story, kind of like fuck you truck that I'll drive the shit out of it 1 inch off the ground because it can do it.
Yeah.
You know, and who cares if I scratch it or dent it? Look at it. It's fucking ugly. It's a pretty ugly, you know? It was just wild.
What made you want to sell it? Just it ran its course and on to the next one?
No, I'm fucking bored. I never.
That's the way I am. When I'm done turning wrenches and I put everything away, I'm like, all right, I'm bored. Let's do something else. I need to play with something else.
Exactly. Like I kind of rinse and repeat the same scenario for all of my trucks. I build them for me with the idea that I know I'm going to sell it. I am never under some sort of assumption I'm going to keep one for a long time. Like my 59 Coupe de Ville I had for 4 years, the Apache I had for 4 years. The Cadillac I accidentally sold because after we got done shooting for Petrolicious and I had a full media deck, I came home and I was messing around with the Apache. I already had the Apache in the garage. And at that point, it was just more disassemble and like pen to paper type of stuff and working on the renderings. And my wife had made a picture of margaritas. So I was in the garage drinking margaritas all day. And I'm like, you know, fuck it. I'm going to upload it to eBay and see what happens. Didn't think, I think I set like a $75,000 or $80,000 reserve. I don't remember what it was, but I woke up the next morning. I had a few hundred messages on my phone and my Instagram had fucking crazy messages. I was like, what happened? eBay was lighting me up and I was like, huh, all right. So I started opening shit. I'm like, oh no, it already hit the reserve. And then there's all these messages from the two guys that hit the reserve and we're now battling each other. We know who you are. We've watched this build. We're like, oh, fuck, no. This is who actually buys cars on eBay? This is all going to be fake. They're not going to make the deposit. Sure as shit, dude. 5 days go by and these guys are like tooth and nail. And then the guy's like, I'm not going to bid any higher than that. I'm like, I'm telling you, dude, this is his max bid. I'm not trying to say that from a I want more money standpoint, but I'm just letting you know. So sure as shit, Ryan won it and instantly reached out to me. He's like, dude, I can't believe this. I'm sending you your deposit right now. Like, and it's just like my fucking ass fell out. Oh no, it really is gone. I fucking sold it. Oh no, you know. And then,
so the moral of that story is don't drink in eBay.
Yeah, but usually it's the opposite way. People are buying when they're drinking. You know, I didn't think, man. You know, but again, I was at a point with that car where I had it for numerous years. I had many good times with it. multiple magazines. Like, what else could I do with it? Like, I was okay letting it go in that regard. I hadn't had anything else I wanted to do with it that I was waiting on. So, and then from there, I kind of learned my lesson about make sure I get everything done I want to do with these trucks, shows, any kind of like brand alignment, like vendor booths I need to be at, magazine shoots. And then once I kind of achieve all of that, whether it takes 6 months or 2 years, that's usually when I start getting kind of like, all right, even now with the 73, I've loosely put it out there that it's up for grabs if anybody wants it.
So that's when you tell the wife to make a new pitcher of margaritas.
Exactly.
Once you've done what you need to do with it.
Exactly. But then, it's also what I'm finding year after year is that the tire kickers are more and more prevalent. And you're like, bro, why do you even come up to me and tell me you want to buy this? And like knowing full well you've got only 40 grand to spend. Like,
yeah,
you can't build one of these for fucking 50 or 60 or 70 grand. Now, the guys that are mechanically capable of doing it, they can.
because there's no labor involved.
There's no labor. But I pay labor, even though it's typically at a discounted rate. I still pay labor because I can't weld. I can't paint. If I try to paint your car, it would look like stripes. It would look like shit. So I'm a big believer in aligning yourself with the right builders, especially in this day and age, because there's a lot of builders out there that talk a great game, but then your car is in like hostage.
Yep.
You haven't done shit to it. And you're like, yo, bro, I've given you like 20K and you've done nothing. And it's been 6 months. Like me, I would rather just show up with a bat and figure it out that way. But, and that's really with, I've been fortunate enough, like a good friend of mine, Eddie, he's introduced me to a lot of really good guys over the years. And I'm fortunate enough to continuously work with them with like Per Diem and Creepworks, who built that one. They built my blacked out dually. They worked on my 64 C10 for my wife. They're about to build that dually over there.
So what are you doing with the dually now?
Honestly, I'm just waiting on parts to start showing up. So that one's going to be fun, man. We're doing Dean from DC Fab. He did a full kit front and rear for it. I think that ships out this week. Actually, I need to text Michael, find out where my wheels are. He's doing me a set of one-offs for that I'll have to drive out to Arizona probably the end of this month to pick up. And then, I'm aligned with like Slam Specialties and AccuAir and, through Derek Schaefer, who was the original owner of Mr. Simpson and started it way back in 2016, but he had to shelve it because he just got busy with life. Then we're going to do full interior, full audio, just lay it on the ground, man, have some fun with it, full paint. And then, rinse and repeat. Like, this has got 2 tech articles and a feature already shot. I have one more feature to shoot. And then I've done all my vendor things. Like Grand Nationals was the last booth I really needed to be in for Raceline. Now it's just kind of have fun with it. The plan is to debut the dually at Slowdown end of July on, Feature Row or inside of like, I think Creepworks is doing a booth. So I don't know, I'm bored. I'm waiting to go with this one. I've already I had a huge truckload of parts shipped over to Creepworks. And then now I'm literally just waiting on the pallets to start getting delivered. Heart Fab did a set of tubs for it. Those are getting delivered. Heart Fab sponsored the tubs on this one. We did a really cool engine bay tech article with them. So for classic,
I'm doing the same thing with mine with Josh as well at Heart Fab.
I mean, he's such a good dude, man. And his work is friggin' amazing to look at. Like, it really opened up my engine bay putting those tubs in there. It looks like a just a work of art. So, and again, it goes back to brand alignment. Work with good people that are reliable and that stand behind what they say, as opposed to ones that don't. And
yep.
Some people are they never learn that lesson, and they keep getting that vicious circle of he said, she said. Meanwhile, I spent $2,000 and I don't have any parts. And it's unfortunate to see, but
I always use the analogy if my wheel company says, "Hey, we need you in Atlanta on Saturday," I'm in Atlanta on Saturday. That's how that works because they go out of their way to help me, and I go out of my way to help them because it's a you got to work with these guys.
Yeah. No, I mean it's true, man. It's like, again, there's only a couple shows in Cali. I think the only big show I'm going to this year will be Slowdown. I think I'm skipping the Classic Pismo, and then after that it'll be Dino's and AZ for and Michael's right there in AZ. So yeah, this year I'm kind of pulling back on the big shows, all of them, because like for a while I was gone like every month somewhere, and I'm grateful that my wife will pick up the slack on running our business for us when I'm not there. But at the end of the day, she's tired. And, I can only have so many weekends off. By the way, High Noon, great water. As if High Noon ever wants to sponsor me.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Tell everybody where they can find you online to keep up with all your builds and shenanigans.
Honestly, other than my OnlyFans, which is not getting a lot of traffic.
That was my later question. I usually ask people after they give their Instagram and stuff what their OnlyFans is. So I'm glad you started with that first.
No,
so.
I mean that's the most important one, but nobody's looking to see pictures of elbows and buttholes.
So they say that's a big market. I mean, I got a blazer to build myself.
Girls, but I don't know about dudes. Like I don't know about all that shit. But no, man, my only social is just Instagram. It's just Rocco's Dad, and it's ROCCOSDAD. Again, if you're following it and you see all the gibberish I put up there, I apologize. Feel free to unfollow me or send me a like, hey man, I'm tired of seeing the same shit over and over, but I have nothing else to post. I'm old. And then, honestly, I think the next big show, I don't know if I'm going to Reunion, will be Slowdown in July, which it's crazy to think, man, we're already halfway through February already.
Yep.
It's wild that this year is screaming by.
Most of my year I'll be spent probably about once a month flying to Vegas for a week or two and helping with the build, and then try to get it ready for SEMA, and then stay out there for a week, and then do Dino's, and then I guess drive it back home. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm having to skip a bunch of shows myself this year just for the fact that there'll be so much time on the West Coast.
Who's building it out in Vegas?
My buddy Adam Madrigal.
Okay.
He's the one that runs.
Cool, man. I can't wait to see it.
I don't know if you know Adam or not.
I don't know Adam.
He runs Extreme Lows. He used to own Musso Motorsports back in the day.
Okay.
Him and Joe Musso.
Nice.
And then he was shop foreman at Counts Customs for a while, and so like I've got Ryan Evans doing my little bit of paint work we're doing, and doing the clear coat, and old Ghetto Bob's doing all my interior and audio for me. So,
hell yeah,
keeping it all in the Vegas family there. So,
hell yeah. That's awesome.
The bad parts, I've already bought the Blazer and half these parts, and I've never seen it in person. So,
dude, I know that feeling, man. I bought a garage full of parts for the Apache, and then Jeff showed up with 2 flatbeds and towed everything away. And then, Jeff's shop from the west side is like an hour east. Well, anytime I wanted to go see that, other than a photo dump, I'd have to drive an hour just to go look at it. But it's a little easier than you having to go all the way to Vegas from where you're at, North Carolina.
Yep, it's a 4.5 hour flight.
Oh,
so
God. That's not cheap either.
No, but the fun part though is I was like, we were back and forth. We're trying to find a West Coast vehicle. For one, it'd have less rot and rust than an East Coast vehicle would.
Totally.
And then I wouldn't have to transport it and all that. And he come across one that had already been started. Like the guy already had the engine stuff pulled out, but it was in pieces. So it was hard for him to sell. So he let it go dirt cheap.
Perfect.
So then he's like, yeah, I'm going to go Saturday and go look at it. Well, I never heard from him. Never heard from him. I called him and said, hey, did you go look at that truck? And he didn't answer. Well, 10 minutes later, he called back and he goes, hey, I need you to send me that money. You just bought a vehicle today. And I was like, did you not FaceTime me or send me photos? He goes, no, it's what we needed. So I just went ahead and gave a deposit on it.
Oh, shit. Wow. So you were in the dark on that one. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, we'd been looking at it. We looked at others, he pulled the carpet, make sure the floors were good and the rockers, the typical stuff on those. But he literally put a deposit down without showing me any other photos than the 3 that were on the marketplace ad.
Yeah. Well,
and it's lifted 3 inches in the rear. It's got Porterbuilt in the front. So the front cross member lays flat. So it's just, weird, wonky. Of course, we're redoing all that, but still,
Nice.
I've yet to see it in person. It'll be mid-March before I even see it in person. So
I mean, hell, man, it's only a month out, so that's pretty cool.
all I know is it's got multiple years of Vegas dust on it. So I'm sure it's a different color once I wash it.
Oh God, dude! Especially the way you get down with cleaning cars, it's gonna look like a whole different vehicle.
Well, we're just going to wash the dirt first because, with us keeping the patina on it, we're going to probably add to it. So there'll be some sanding involved. And,
Oh, yeah, I'm an advocate for patina, man. I think it's just cool. Like even my Cadillac was the last shiny vehicle I had, and I was so grateful that I didn't have all that chrome to clean and all that really nice paint to worry about. And then we polished this and ceramic coated it, and now it's back to being shiny with patina. I'm like, I got to keep that clean. Dude, I hate
well,
it. I hate it, man.
I've been one of those, like, I guess you would say anti patina for so long.
Yeah.
Because, like, to me, when I was shooting magazine stuff, it's like, okay, well, that just says you're short on your budget. Well, then the more I looked at it, it's like, so you have all this money in suspension and engine and interior and wheels and brakes. And it's like, but then you left the body. Well, then I looked at doing the Blazer and I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do? And I'm like, every vehicle I've done, I have to worry about scratches and dings and rock chips and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, maybe I'll build one I don't have to worry about. And that's how this one stuck. And then we're doing the Poppy's gloss clear on it. So it'll still be shiny, but rusty.
I love that look. I'm not a big fan for shiny patina though. Like, Jeff, he made me. I knew one thing is when I prepped the Apache, I basically got red Scotch Brights and diluted CLR with water, and I scrubbed it like a paint job, like a prep.
Yeah.
And it knocked all the ash and the burrs off and stuff like that. And when it dried, it shifted a whole different color, which was really wild because the rust and the CLR had a chemical reaction that I had no idea was going to happen. And it got really wild looking. And then when I had the body shop right here next to my house shoot just original, like automotive matte clear, it elevated that patina and made all these colors pop through that weren't really present in its dry stage. And it was still a matte finish, but I had amber, I had bronze, I had coppers, I had oxidized greens. I had a lot of those like kind of like crazy old patina colors that you would see on different metals. So like my bezels that lasted through the fire had this really unique oxidized green tone to it in some spots. So that was really the basis of the color palette for the whole build from that point on after the clear was shot. So I've seen a lot of the trucks that do like the Poppy's patina or their other brand that they have. And they look cool. I don't know, man. That's what makes what's cool about this industry. We all like what we like. Like it drives me crazy that this square is so. Everyone thinks it's been reshot or repainted. No, man, it's just literally matte at precision. He spent 3 days cutting and polishing it and then ceramic coating. I was like, holy hell, that's the same truck. It's wild that it came out so beautiful, but now I have to keep it up, which I hate.
Well, we were going to do the matte because we're doing their spray clear, not the wipe on.
Nice.
But we was going to do the matte, and I was like, when you do the matte, then there's still going to be specks of trash or something in it. You're still going to have that issue. And me as a detailer, I'm like, it'd be easier for me to keep up with it gloss. And I'm like, we got to do the roof, redo the shell on it anyway. So it's like I might as well just gloss the whole thing and then go that route with
it. You guys just
so,
move the whole roof out?
Those Blazer roofs, especially the West Coast ones that sit out in the desert all the time, the fiberglass is showing through on the top and all that. Yeah. So it has to be re-resined and all that stuff to bring it back, and it has to be painted.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we'll do that, and then just clear the whole thing while it's apart, and then retrim it and all that stuff. So
nice.
We'll see. I mean, there's different, like you said, the people like the matte, some people like the clear, but we're still going to try to keep as much of the rust and stuff as we can. So,
dude, I I'm just a huge fan of it. I think it looks cool because then it tells a story, right? I mean, anybody can paint a truck, and there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. Like I got to repaint this whole one back to factory white, but something about like, oh, this truck and the history of it, and like imagine what this person was doing in the 80s or the 70s when they owned it. I don't know. I kind of find it very nostalgic, to think about. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I can't wait to see your build, man. Your builds are always cool, the new stuff, and
appreciate
now
it.
you're doing something old. Like it's definitely going to be a head turner for sure.
I've never done the engine swap thing, and it's like,
It's a lot. It's a lot
yep,
of work, man. It's a
doing
lot.
the LT is different than doing an LS. So there's a lot of new stuff that goes involved. That's not the old school LS stuff. So
Yeah. No, I mean,
we're gonna,
again, that's where brand alignment is key, right? You work with good people that stand behind their name and they don't shortcut your shit. And really, at the end of the day, because we all know the people that shortcut it, we can all come up with 5 names really quickly. It's
yep,
probably a lot of the same names that we're all thinking of. It doesn't matter what coast you're on or what, but it's always cool to see new builds pop out every year, man. So I'm excited. I'm planning to go to SEMA. I mean, hey, if anybody wants to jump on board and take that to SEMA, let me know. But I think I'm going to just go to SEMA to have cocktails all week. So unless somebody wants it. But
well, you can walk into the Renaissance right next door, and they have a full bar. So
nice. Now one of my good friends is a host, so like it's a shit show when we go, man. But
well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's good chatting with you, and looking forward to seeing what you do in the future.
thank you for having me, and thanks for everyone who's listening or not listening. I totally get why you tuned out because I don't want to listen to me either. But yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody at shows. And Brandon, I appreciate you, brother. Cheers.